All right, students, a very good morning, everyone. This side is Megha Narayan. So today we will start chapter number 3, part 2 of Geography for class 7. So here we go. Chapter 3, as you already know, is all about weather and climate, right? So further we are elaborating it and making it to part 2, which first topic is as like air pressure. Fine. So once we are supposed to decide what exactly air pressure is all about, so let's start it with the very first point written onto the screen of the slide. Please have a read to it. Air pressure is exactly the pressure exerted by what? A weight of air. Fine. So whatever the weight of air is there, the pressure that is exactly exerted, implied or applied by that air over to a surface can be defined as air pressure. Now, one of the characteristic, as you can read on the slide, says to you, air pressure is exerted in all the directions, okay, up, down, sideways, etc. So that means this air pressure is totally independent from the particular directions. It can be applied to any of the direction. The air pressure pushing down on an object exactly balances the air pressure pushing up the object. That means from down portion as well as from the upper direction, both the particular sides pressure has been applied, and thus it is balancing up and preventing the particular object to pull or to push from a particular direction. Okay, moving to the next slide, coming up to the most the features of the particular air pressure if we are talking about, then we are supposed to understood it that what exactly is used to measure the air pressure. The device name is barometer. So barometer is what? It is exactly a device used for measuring the air pressure. When air pressure is increases, the mercury in the tube rises, and when the air pressure decreases, so does the height of that mercury column also get decreases. The same thing is happening. Once the air pressure is increasing, the mercury tube inside the barometer also increases, or you can say rises up. Okay. Next is when the air pressure decreases, that means it is getting lower. The air pressure value is getting lower or it is getting decreased. So does the same way the height of the mercury column also decreases. As you can see on to this particular picture, here it is clearly depicted that air pressure is equal in all the direction. I had tried to show you with the help of this particular diagram. As you can see, as elevation goes up, that means as the height increases, the barometric pressure goes down. Okay. So coming up to the next one is a barometer. As you can easily see here, a barometer is basically a type of a device used to measure what we had discussed in earlier slides also. It is used to measure up air pressure. Coming up now to the further divisions of barometer. Barometer is exactly of two types. As you can see on the screen, the first one is aneroid barometer. Second is mercury barometer. So let's begin up with each and every one of them in detail with their working. Okay. So if we are talking about aneroid barometer, you can see clearly written over there in the slides, no fragile tubes are there. That means no tubes are there basically used which can be fragile. Fragile means easy breakable or something like that. Okay, nearby the one that is easily breakable. That is what exactly fragile means. Next is no toxic chemicals. Not any sort of the harmful chemicals are basically used. Neither the batteries is playing its role, and the last one, nor does it needs binding or binding. Okay, that is not at all needed in the case of aneroid barometer. Coming up to the working of aneroid barometer, you are supposed to understood this that aneroid barometer uses a cell, not batteries. It uses simply a cell which has most of the air removed. That means if you can see here onto the particular diagram, I try to depict it, this particular thing with the help of this red color circle. Inside it you can see a cell is there. This cell is actually responsible for removing up all the air that is inside. I repeat, it is responsible for removing all the air that is actually inside this aneroid barometer. Once the cell removes up all the particular air, what happens? The air pressure around the cell increases. Okay. Once the cell, this particular cell has removed up the particular pressure, the particular air pressure started increasing. It will press the cell, and thus there will be a fluctuation in the meter that you can see. This particular fluctuation will let you to have the particular readings. More it will fluctuate, the proper reading, it will be clearly shown onto this aneroid barometer. Okay. Moving up now to the next type of the barometer is mercury barometer. This is the picture provided up over here. Try to have a working from the slide. Please try to understand working of the mercury barometer. A mercury barometer is used a glass column. It is using nothing but a sort of a glass column in the case of bowl of a mercury. Okay, so basically that particular glass column is inverted. Here you can see this glass column is basically inverted. Okay, in a bowl of mercury, this is a particular bowl filled of mercury, so it is basically inverted. The pressure of the air molecules push the mercury up into the glass tube. What happens is the particular, in the diagram also it is easily shown, this thing is actually filled up with mercury. Here the atmospheric pressure is basically applied. Once the pressure is applied, this mercury will rises up, okay, and this will give us the particular reading. Fine. Here also please have a look. The weight of the mercury in the tube was equal to the weight of the air pressing down on the mercury in the dish. That means the weight of the mercury which is pushing it down, or which is you can say in the simple way like whatever mercury is there inside, okay, the weight of this mercury is actually equal to the weight of the air that is pressuring up, or you can say pressing up the mercury right now in this bowl. Here it is also written in the way like PATM. That means pressure of atmosphere is equals to pressure of mercury. Whatever pressure is applied will be equal to the same amount or same way of the mercury that has been rises up into this column, into this glass column. Okay. So moving on now to the another device. We were talking about now anemometer. So if you're talking about anemometer, it is nothing but a sort of a device which you can see in this slide also, made up of, in this case, it is made up of three bowl-like structure combined together. It is used to measure the speed of wind. Okay, so basically what you are doing, you are using this sort of device to do what? To measure the speed of wind. Here the second point is written are the various measurement units of anemometer include feet per minute, meters per second, kilometers per hour, miles per hour and nautical miles per hour, knots, etc. These are the further particular units that you can have a reading over here. They are used for measuring up the speed of the wind. Okay. Now the next thing comes a particular device which is used to measure the direction of the wind. Earlier using this we were just doing what? We are measuring the speed. I repeat, we are using this anemometer to measure the speed. We are using this device known as wind vane to measure the direction. Okay, earlier one was for speed, this is for direction. Direction like east, west, north, south, like that. Okay, so wind vane is basically an instrument used to measure the direction of the wind. It is typically used by the architectural people, okay, at a highest point of the building. A traditional weather or a wind vane has no unit at all. Okay, it gives you the direction like east, west, north, south, etc. And thus providing us the information or the direction in which the wind is basically blowing up. Okay, moving up next is the topic of humidity. Now comes the particular definition. First of all, humidity is nothing but a measure of amount of water in the air. That simply means if the air is having certain water vapor, then that amount of water vapor exactly present in that air will be called as what? It will be called as simply humidity. Okay, the measurement of the amount of water we are talking about. This water vapor how gets connected? The question arises, how does the air has this water vapor inside it? The basic particular process responsible for this thing is actually evaporation. If you heard about this particular topic, evaporation is actually the process via which what happens, a liquid state is basically converted into a gaseous state. In this case, air is just having water converted into steam form and just combining it with this process is evaporation. When this air has this particular water with it, it is called as humidity. Okay, air with water is humidity. And how does water get attached with air? The process is evaporation. Now there are two type of humidity given in your syllabus. Humidity here you can see first one is absolute, second is relative. Okay, so we will talk about them one by one. Talking about absolute humidity, it is nothing but a measure of actual amount of water vapor in the air. Please have a look. Here is a bit of correction needed. Okay, so here the measure of the actual amount of water vapor present in air is what absolute humidity. Fine. Coming up to the relative humidity, it is represented by RH. The same way it is given in your book as well. Relative humidity is nothing but a measurement that is expressed all the time in the case of percentage, which is the water vapor relative to the temperature of air. If you didn't understood, don't worry. Have a look here. In other words, it is the measure of actual amount of water vapor in air compared to the total amount of water vapor that can exist in air at that current temperature. That means RH or relative humidity, you can write it as like actual amount of water vapor content present at that particular point. Okay. Right now, whatever it is having, that point will be written here, the actual amount. And this is the total capacity of the water vapor that air can hold. I repeat, this is the total capacity. The maximum water vapor capacity will be put up over here in the case of denominator. And thus you will multiply it with 100 to get the amount in the case of percent. And you will have the value of RH. So these were two types of the humidity, absolute and relative humidity. Now the question arises, which device is used to measure this sort of humidity? If we are talking about relative humidity, you can have this particular thing written even in the boxes. This device name is hygrometer. Okay, so moving up now to the hygrometer. There are two type of hygrometer as you can see on the screen, wet bulb and dry. So you are supposed to just have a simple reading over it. It has two mercury thermometers in it. If we are talking about this sort of the particular hygrometer, one with a wetted base, another with a dry base. Water from the wet base evaporate, absorbs heat. With the calculations, the dry thermometer and the reading throw and the wet, you are able to determine the relative humidity. Don't get worried. If you are talking about relative and wet bulb hygrometer, both of them you can easily understood by this particular diagram. Dry bulb is not having any sort of air water content. Okay, it is not having any wetted base. In the case of wet bulb, it is having certain hair, a bucket shape like, which is filled up with water. Fine. These both only difference is this one, that it is basically having a wetted base. In this case, it is not having the wetted base. At a point of time, what happens? It will just measure up the amount of humidity. Whatever the particular depression is there, whatever the measurement is there, you can simply calculate it out. Okay. Moving up to the next topic is precipitation or rainfall. So precipitation is nothing but it is actually a natural process of atmospheric water vapor to be converted into water. Water vapor it was having with the process of evaporation. Now it will be converted again back to water. The process is precipitation. Okay, be very sure about the topic. Precipitation is the natural process of conversion of atmospheric water vapor into air. The water falls down in the form of rainfall or snowfall. The precipitation is used to refer to the term as rainfall. Next is, it is the term and included all form of falling moisture, that can be rainfall, snowfall, sleet, hail, etc. Rainfall occurs in the form of a pattern. Now the next question arises, which is the device used for this measurement of rainfall? So the device that is used for measuring up this rainfall is rain gauge. Okay, the device is used for measuring the rainfall quantity of a particular area. The next thing comes up to the screen is, as you can see, isophyt. It is a line on a map or a chart that is connecting area of equal rainfall. Let there be two places with equal amount of rainfall, then there will be a line joining both of them. This is the same line we are talking about. Okay. Coming now is the next topic. What are clouds? So clouds are water droplets or air crystals that are in Earth's troposphere. You can say bottommost part of the Earth atmosphere. If we are moving towards the upper section, if we are here and moving towards the upper section of the atmosphere, the very first layer we will accommodate is actually the troposphere. So cloud is nothing but water droplet or ice crystal that are actually present in troposphere. Moving up now to the further divisions of clouds. Clouds are categorized, or you can say classified, on the basis of their altitude and appearances. Altitude means their height. Appearances, that means simply how they look. This picture is not so clear. Don't be worried. We will have another sort of picture also for the illustration purpose. Just have a reading over here. Each type of cloud form in a different way and bring its own type of weather. Okay, so basically every part of the cloud, or you can say every type of the cloud, is basically you can say is made up of different ways. They are basically having a different process of forming up together. Process will be like evaporation, and all that particular rain cycle will be there, just like that water cycle will be there. The only thing is their formation can be in a different way. They look like totally different and brings its own sort of the weather also with them. So on to the basis of your syllabus, there are how many type of divisions you can see? Three main form of divisions of clouds. It is written onto the screen. First one is cirrus, second is stratus, and the third one is cumulus. Okay, cirrus, stratus, and cumulus. Moving up to them one by one, as you can see on the screen, cirrus clouds are the highest of all clouds and are made of ice crystals. They basically have no visible precipitation. As you can see on the screen also, they are having actually, they are, you can say, cirrus sort of the clouds are the highest of all clouds, and they are all the time made up of ice crystals only. Okay, so cirrus are the one that are available at the highest point of, or you can say highest altitude within the atmosphere. They are highest of all the clouds. They are having not at all any sort of the visible precipitation. Coming up to the second type is stratus. Stratus clouds are formed when large air masses cools, also known as fog or mist. Okay, stratus clouds are also the lowest forming clouds. That means it is the highest. If we are talking about highest, the name is cirrus. If we are talking about lowest, it is stratus. So as you can see, light rain most likely. This is the sort of the cloud which is basically formed with large air masses that basically cools down and thus provides a little bit of rainfall, or you can say a light rainfall. Third type of the cloud you can see on the screen is cumulus. In Latin, cumulus means heap. Heap means collection, all of them just one above the another like that together. Cumulus clouds look like a heap of a wiped cream or cotton balls. So basically it will look as like wiped cream, or you can say cotton balls. Okay, they are formed on sunny days. A proper sunny days is basically responsible for their formation, cumulus clouds formation. The next is they signals a good weather. Okay, so whenever they are present, they signals up a good weather. Next particular last feature of this is if it gets higher, it can cause bad weather as well. It signals a good weather, fine enough, but if it gets higher, that means if it keep on rising, then it will definitely provide a very bad weather. So if once we are going to revise all three of them, there are three type of the clouds as you can see on the screen. The highest, if we are talking, highest cloud is actually named as cirrus. The lowest cloud is known as stratus. Cirrus cloud doesn't have any sort of visible precipitation, while stratus clouds bring you a very light rainfall. Cumulus means heap. Cumulus is just like a cotton ball. They are formed on sunny days. They basically signals a good weather, but if they keep on rising or it gets higher, it will definitely cause a bad weather. Moving up to the further prefixes, these are the further prefixes of clouds you can see. So it will be just attached with those three types. These three are there. It will be attached with them and will form another type of clouds as well. So first one, as you can see on the screen, is cirro. That means whisk of hair, the highest cloud. Okay. Second is alto, means high name given to mid-level clouds. Again, our next one. Next you can see is third, nimbo or nimbus. This means rain. The cloud, this is basically responsible for a precipitation, basic form of precipitation. Next, in the second last one is cumulo, which means again heap or piled up clouds, one above the another. The last one, there is no prefixes for low altitude cloud. So basically there is no prefixes. These are only the prefixes as per the particular altitudes of the cloud. So this was all about the review. You can see various sort of the clouds are here, from cirrostratus to cumulonimbus to cumulus, nimbostratus, altocumulus, altostratus, stratocumulus, stratus, cirrocumulus, and cirrus. Many of them differentiates different way of formation, and thus a different sort of weather also they will provide. So this was all about the particular chapter so far now. Last topic of this chapter is metrology. It is basically nothing but the study of measurement. Measurements are quantitative observations, numerical descriptions, etc. So that means simply once you are having the study of measurement of atmosphere, then that is metrology. Okay. The question arises, why the study of measurement of atmosphere or temperature or weather so much is needed? It is needed because of the further points you can see on the screen, because of the complete evaluation of newly developed products, determination of process capabilities, and ensure that these are better than relevant component tolerance. If you are going to design something new, its capability will be definitely judged up, and this process will be again metrology thus needed of. Minimizing the cost of inspection by effective and efficient use of available facility. These are the further process, or you can say the particular importance you can easily find out of metrology so far. So this was all about the chapter. All right. So here we ends.